For years, we have been seeing many of our favorite titles getting remakes and remasters. But however, these almost always just equate to the same experience we had originally, with a few upgrades, throwback moments, and sometimes a tweak to the controls. While that is fine and fitting for a remaster, it simply isn't going to cut it for remakes after the game we're going to talk about today. Motive Games, a team created by Electronic Arts, has just released the remake of Dead Space, and it's beyond what I was expecting. Dead Space originally launched back in 2008 for the PS3 and the Xbox 360, and it had my curiosity after they announced the remake. So I've been looking forward to experiencing a slightly different challenge for me: horror games. I started with the Callisto Protocol, which was created by the original dev team of the original Dead Space. I don't know what happened during that game, but I can honestly tell you one thing: this is not the experience that I was getting to it. But I'll talk about that some other time. And now that I've tried Dead Space, I can say for sure that this title is officially my new benchmark on how a remake should be made. Take on the role of Issac Clark, an engineer heading to the massive colony spacecraft known as the Ishimura to provide repairs. Excited to see his beloved Nicole once again, a job on Ishimura is one he couldn't pass up. However, it seems there is much more going on than just a few technical issues on board. It isn't long after the team makes their way inside the Ishimura that they are attacked by the real cause of the call from the aides from the Ishimura. What was it called? It was the necromorphs. Of course, they don't learn what they are until later, but from the initial attack, the crew is slimmed down to 3 remainder members: Captain Hammond, Programmer Daniels, and Engineer Clark. Through the chaos, the original ship that got the crew here is lost, and so begins the journey to find a way off to the Ishimura. Little did they know this would turn out to be the biggest fight for their lives, as they end up traversing multiple quarters of the spacecraft in order to put everything together well enough to even find options to escape the overrun and deadly situation on board. This journey also leads them to the truth of what has happened. It appears the mining crew from the nearby planet has dug up more than resources and found what they call the marker. This device seems to mess with people's heads and has unleashed the terror that has overrun, killed, and taken over the spacecraft. The story remains the same as the original in 2008, but in the remake they have made quite a few changes. For starters, our silent protagonist has dialogue and is actually well written. Everything the crew learns on board isn't just because Hammond and Daniels happen across all the information Clark needs to keep moving forward, but instead they all find bits of information out from a variety of sources, such as survivors encountered, logs, even a dying man's final words, and a lot more. All in all, the improvements and upgrades to the story made the game flow so much smoother than the original. Everything felt organic and not like video game objective updates. And the fact that there are no load screens is your major plus. Another thing I was impressed to see is that chapters aren't changed by taking the tram as before, but rather they flow into each other as the previous one is completed. Here we have an improved version of what was before. You start out with the plasma cutter and you can find various weapons along the way. There is a limit to how many weapons you can have equipped at one time, but you can keep whatever you want in your inventory. So if you want to have 6 weapons on you, then you can do that and swap out which 4 are currently equipped for quick changing. The weapons you have equipped are the ones you'll find mostly ammo for, but there are times you'll find whatever you find, and that can be ammo for a weapon you have stored away in the storage. The pathway of the game is vastly different. While this seems like something that could be problematic, they actually made the game feel and play so much smoother than I could have hoped for. There are a lot more zero gravity moments than the original. You'll run into a larger variety of enemies with even more hidden behind New Game Plus. To get to new areas, you'll have to take new pathways and then unlock the tram station when you get there for future traversing and more. Even things like the Asteroid Blaster minigame section were changed to be more sci-fi story fitting, where you are focused on linking to them individually and calibrating them rather than just fighting off asteroids until the system links up with itself. And I do know that if you played the original, yeah, this is a plus for you, so good job, buddy. You did it great. They added a security clearance system into the game as well. This comes into play for rooms and storage crates that are locked away from you. At first, I thought it was a bit annoying, but later on I realized that I had to traverse through the same areas more than once with the new game pathway, and by the time I reached the area a second time, I had the clearance for more rooms and stuff, which helped me resupply at that point in the game while I was able to resupply with unsecured lockers previously. While the security clearance is clever for those who want to complete side objectives closer to the end of the game and run around the ship some more, it is a super clever way to keep players supplied for all parts of the game even when they go through the same area more than once. And also, if you're lost on your main objective, do not worry. With the simple press of a button, it will show you the pathway to where you need to go next. Something that returning players can look forward to is more sequences. Sure, you'll be able to spot when a few key moments are going to happen again, as they did memorably before, but they threw in a few new surprises for you to experience as well. I would like to dive into more of what I mean, but that would go into spoiler territory, so just note that you won't be expecting everything thrown at you even if you played the originals recently. I haven't played the originals, but I think I'll give it a try some other time.
I'm gonna get us home. There's an SOS beacon nearby. We can call for help.
The beacon, right. They locked it in the workshop, but my clearance can get us in this way.
Lastly, let's talk about the store and bench options. Just as before, in order to get things out of the store, you will need to find a schematic for the item and bring it to the store. Eventually, you'll be able to purchase health, stasis, oxygen, ammo, nodes, and weapon upgrades. I managed to fully upgrade my plasma cutter on my initial playthrough, which was handy for fully figuring out the bench system. Just as before, you use nodes to upgrade your rig and weapons, but it isn't exactly the same. Before, the upgrade tree had progress spots that didn't really do anything for you but brought you closer to the other upgrades in the tree. But this time you will need to find upgrades and purchase the one weapon upgrade from the store in order to fully unlock the tree. Each upgrade unlocks more of the tree for that specific item, same with the rig upgrades for your suit. But the good news is that every node you place into your rig or weapon, it will be an upgrade of some kind for it. Once you beat the game, you unlock some free items and a new game plus. The new game plays mode will have new enemies to encounter and a new mystery to uncover, while letting you start off with all of your credits, upgrades, and such from your initial playthrough. Your guild will simply be in storage once you come across the first store in the game. Also, for those that want a real challenge, the game offers a new difficulty called Impossible, and it's quite a fitting tier. For those that think hard mode isn't hard enough, good luck with that mode. They managed to keep the sound effects and music style to how much the original game was. It honestly felt like they just pulled all the old audio files, cleaned them up where they needed, and put them back in the game. However, all the voice work was pretty much redone since the story is told in a different manner and a lot of different things happened than how they did originally. This is thanks to the overall game's flow improvement and the additional voice given to our protagonists. Which, by the way, here's a fun fact. The voices that you hear from Isaac and Nicole are the respective actors that gave them the original game. So kudos to them. Aesthetically speaking, this game is beautifully grotesque. You can tell that the enemies actually evolved through the game from the way their design was at the beginning versus how they looked at the end. The scenery was dark and disturbing, even with the brightness turned up a bit, and all the hologram work was done so well. We can even compare to the Shimura back in 2008 and now in 2023. You can actually see that the ship in the remake is way darker. And the atmosphere, you can kind of feel that it really is spooky and you don't want to be there. The improvements to this game really got me encapsulated by the visuals around the player's environment as well. Given that there are side objectives, a never-ending flow of enemies in the ship, various difficulties to play on, a new challenging difficulty that I see very few players actually beating, and a new game plus mode that is said to actually offer new lore and enemies means the experience opportunity these games are vast. So I would say this game definitely has some replayability to it, although maybe not a lot. How advanced everything is in this game, it is no surprise that there are a few glitches and issues to be worked out. I did run into a number of glitches that were a bit visually distracting, and a small handful that actually impacted some of my gameplay, but nothing actually problematic. With a few updates, they should be able to knock out the handful of annoyances within the game at this time. Even though that this review was made after, I think that the Dead Space is already updated at this point. So I think that maybe the glitches that I occurred, maybe they're already gone since I got the game a little bit way earlier than before. Dead Space Remake is the benchmark title for how remakes are meant to be handled. While maintaining the same integrity, story, lore, and experience, they provided a whole new experience with new enemies, dialogue, overall pathway, and really took advantage of today's technology. I would argue that this version of the game is what the original game would have been like if technology back then was advanced enough to handle it, and now that it can, they provided their originality conceived experience. I strongly recommend this game to any sci-fi horror fan, especially those who played and enjoyed the original Dead Space. But if you never played the original such as me, go and give it a shot. Just so a reminder, please for the love of God, do not play the Callisto Protocol. That was my first experience, and I gotta say, it was a bummer. But like I said, I'll do maybe a review later for that one. And until then, just tell me, what are your thoughts? Are you gonna play the Dead Space remake? Will you be playing the originals? Or do you want to make them the remakes of the second and the third since we already have the first one? Let me know in the comments down below, and let's see. I'll see you on the next video. See you soon.